The last thing I truly remember from that life was the shocking impact of metal against my body. I had been on my way to confront my mother, Helen, who was at a birthday party she was throwing for her stepdaughter, Diane. Just moments before, I had overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. When one of the party guests had asked about me, my mother had simply scoffed. So I took $50,000 of her money to help Diane with a down payment. What's the big deal? She's such an ungrateful brat. With those words echoing in my mind, a semi-truck seemed to materialize out of thin air and my world went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was given a second chance. This time, I knew I had to sever the ties with my mother and the toxic, one-sided love I had always craved from her. Instead, I would seek out the family I had been kept from, my stepmother, who, as it turned out, was one of the wealthiest women in the city, ready to show me a life I had never imagined. My final memory before that rebirth was one of frantic desperation. I had been on a business trip when Diane called me in a panic, her voice strained with fake tears. She told me Helen had suffered a stroke and needed $50,000 for an emergency life-saving surgery. Without a second thought, I wired her every cent I had saved. It was only later that I discovered the entire story was a cruel fabrication, a scheme designed to secure the down payment for Diane's new house. I remember storming toward the hotel where they were celebrating, my mind a storm of betrayal and rage. As I stepped off the curb to cross the street, the truck's headlights blinded me. The initial impact was followed by a horrifying sensation of being crushed again and again, as if the driver was ensuring the job was done. In those final, fading moments of consciousness, I could hear my mother's voice drifting from the hotel's open patio. So I took 50 grand for Diane's house, and now she's throwing a tantrum and skipping the party. What an ungrateful brat. Diane's sickly sweet voice chimed in. Mom, it's one thing for her to hate me, but how could she ignore you like this? What they didn't know was that their most obedient daughter, the one they had used and discarded, was dying on their precious Diane's birthday. Claire, you're up next. A soft tap on my shoulder jolted me back to the present. I was in a conference room, the city skyline visible through stunning floor-to-ceiling windows that made the light almost blinding. I was alive. It was the day of my final internship presentation, a day that had previously marked the end of my dreams. I just stood there for a moment, stunned and disoriented by the sheer impossibility of it all. My manager, Sarah, looked at me with genuine concern. What's wrong, Claire? Are you feeling all right? I shook my head, trying to clear the fog of a life I had already lived and lost. No, I'm fine. I just spaced out for a second. Sarah gave my hand a reassuring squeeze under the conference table. It's okay, don't be nervous. Just focus and nail this presentation. You've got the full-time offer in the bag. I nodded, my resolve hardening. Whether this was a vivid dream before death or a genuine miracle, I had to seize this opportunity. With a newfound clarity, I pulled myself together. I closed all the distracting social media tabs open on my laptop, silenced my phone, and with a few decisive clicks, blocked Helen and Diane's numbers. The last time, this was the exact moment they had destroyed my future. Just as I was about to begin my presentation, Diane had called, her voice a frantic mess, claiming our mother was in a terrible accident and that I needed to leave immediately to sign surgical consent forms. Faced with an impossible choice between my mother and my career, I had chosen my mother. It cost me the job, and it was all based on a lie, a carefully constructed scheme to force me to quit and return home, where I could continue to serve as their personal source of income. In my panic, I had fallen for their story completely. This time, I would not make the same mistake. When my name was called, I walked confidently to the podium, my laptop in hand, and began to present my project. The words flowed effortlessly. I didn't stumble once. I knew this presentation by heart, having replayed it in my mind 1,000 times in my past life, each time filled with a fresh wave of regret. When I concluded, my eyes met those of the company's owner, Miss Thompson. Her expression was a complex mixture of delight, admiration, and something else that looked almost like pity. All right, that's it. Meeting adjourned, she announced. As she was about to leave the room, she paused and turned back. Sarah, keep an eye on Claire. I think she has a lot of potential. The starting salary for a full-time position at this company was $8,000 a month. For a recent graduate like me, it was a life-changing amount of money. The possibility of it, now so close, was almost overwhelming. Yet the wave of joy didn't make me lose my composure. I picked up my phone and calmly unblocked Diane and my mother. As if on cue, a call from Diane came through the second I did. "Claire, why are you just now answering? Mom was in a car accident. She needs surgery and there's no one here to sign the papers. It's all your fault," she shrieked. I feigned a shocked gasp. "What? How is she? I was in a meeting." When Diane heard that I had completed my presentation, her voice sharpened with undisguised anger. "Claire, how could you put work before Mom?" A cold laugh escaped my lips. "Diane, why do I have to be the one to sign? Your dad is her legal spouse. He has more right to sign those papers than I do." Diane was momentarily speechless. "My dad? He's too scared. You have to be the one to sign. Besides, Mom is going to have a long recovery. You need to quit your job right now and come home to take care of her." I pretended to consider her words. Okay, fine. I'm on my way. Which hospital are you at?" Diane didn't hesitate. "City General." A genuine laugh burst from me this time. "Perfect. I have an old friend who works at City General. I'll have her go check on Mom right now." Panic instantly laced Diane's voice. "No, it's fine. Don't bother her." I let the silence hang for a moment before my voice turned to ice. "Enough. Do you really think I'm that stupid? I know what you're up to. You're just angry that I'm not under your thumb anymore, aren't you?" The line went silent. After a long pause, a different voice came through, loud and clear, with no trace of illness or injury. My mother's. "Claire, you little brat, you quit that job and get your ass back here right now." She launched immediately into a familiar tirade. "You think you've got wings now, huh? Going behind my back to find a job?" In my past life, I had taken a risk by finding this internship without her knowledge. She and Diane had discovered it and systematically destroyed my opportunity at the most critical moment. I ignored her screaming. "I'm not quitting," I said, my voice firm and steady. "You're defying me? Is this how you repay me for all the years I spent putting you through school?" I almost laughed at the sheer audacity of her claim. "Mom, can you even say that with a straight face? Did you give me a single dime during my 4 years of college?" For 4 years, she had never provided a cent for my living expenses. In the beginning, I used to ask, but my requests were always met with a lecture. "You've been in school this long and you still can't support yourself? Do you think money grows on trees? You have the nerve to ask me and your uncle for money? You have no shame." I used to believe she treated Diane and me the same, a delusion I clung to until I saw Diane living a life of luxury while studying abroad, constantly posting pictures on social media of the expensive designer bags my mother bought for her. I told myself we were both just living under someone else's roof, but the truth was my mother blatantly and cruelly favored Diane. I had considered applying for financial aid, but it was impossible. On paper, my parents had respectable jobs, my sister was studying overseas, and we owned a house and a car. So I worked 2 part-time jobs, scraping together just enough to cover tuition and basic living expenses. My words left her speechless, but only for a moment. "I'm your mother. When I tell you to go east, you go east. You're disobedient and ungrateful, not half as considerate as Diane." "Then let your precious Diane take care of you when you're old," I sneered. "I'm not quitting. A person who gives birth to a child but doesn't raise them has no right to demand anything from them." With that, I hung up and blocked both of their numbers again. After it was over, I sank into my chair, feeling a profound and hollow emptiness. I truly had a chance to take control of my own life. The unreality of it all made me want to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. I just sat there, gasping for air. In my last life, because I missed my presentation and my mother made it impossible for me to leave home, I lost this job. I eventually gave up on my ambitions and found a mundane, ordinary job in my hometown. Meanwhile, my mother pulled strings to get Diane a comfortable corporate position. She had made both Diane and me give her $200 a month. It wasn't until after I died that I learned I was the only fool handing over money. My mother was saving all of it to buy Diane a house. After my death, my spirit was too full of resentment to move on, and I lingered unseen around my mother and Diane. It was then that I discovered they had taken out a massive life insurance policy on me. The car crash wasn't an accident at all. They had arranged the entire thing. They used the payout from my death to buy a mansion and live a life of luxury. This time, I was going to get as far away from them as possible. I would not let them win. The day had been emotionally draining. All I wanted was to go back to my tiny apartment and rest. As soon as I left the office building, however, I felt a pair of eyes locked on me. I kept walking, feigning a casual demeanor, while trying to subtly identify who was watching me. It was a rundown part of the city, with old buildings packed so tightly together that the air felt heavy and stagnant. I walked all the way to my building, then turned and tapped on the window of the car that had been trailing me. The window rolled down, revealing a well-maintained, elegant face. "Clara? I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted to see you." Clara. It was a name I hadn't heard in what felt like a lifetime. Before my parents divorced, my name was Clara, but when my mother remarried, she wanted me to take her new husband's last name as a way to curry favor with him. Even as a small child, I knew enough to refuse. As a compromise, she changed my first name to Claire. The middle-aged woman looked flustered after I had caught her. She stammered for a moment, trying to explain herself, and then her eyes began to well up with tears. "My mom didn't mean any harm, big sis. She just wanted to see if you were doing okay," a young girl in the passenger seat said, breaking the awkward silence. I recognized them immediately. They were the wife and daughter my father had after he remarried. They were also the ones who had come to claim my body in my past life. They had wanted to give me a proper burial, but my mother had stopped them. "What right do you two have? Claire is my daughter. It's not your place. If you try to take her, I'll scatter her ashes to the wind so she can never be reincarnated." My mother had screamed at them, her face contorted with vile hatred. Legally and morally, my mother had the primary right to my remains, so they had been forced to back down. Perhaps she was afraid I would come back to haunt her, because she and Diane planted my grave with peach trees, a folk practice meant to trap a spirit, leaving me in agony. It was my stepmother and stepsister who had snuck out in the middle of the night and paid someone to dig up my remains and rebury them properly. Only then was I able to find peace and open my eyes again in this new life. My stepmother, who had just managed to compose herself, broke down again. Tears filled her eyes. "Clara, why are you living in a place like this? Pack your things, come home with me." The sudden, unconditional kindness stunned me. I instinctively glanced at the girl beside her, my new stepsister. After a moment, I managed to decline. "It's okay, I'm fine here. I just graduated, so I don't have much money." My stepmother and stepsister exchanged an uneasy look. My stepsister cleared her throat. "You haven't really seen us much, so you might not be comfortable living with us right away. I'll have my assistant rent an apartment for you near our house. That way, Mom can see you more easily." She added quickly, "And don't say no. This place isn't safe. Mom and I won't be able to relax knowing you're here." I looked at the girl's earnest face, so genuinely concerned for me, and I couldn't bring myself to refuse their kindness. After all, these were the people who fought for my dignity after I had died. What harm could they possibly wish on me? "Clara, you can just call me Eleanor. This is Sophie, your sister. We were abroad for a long time, so we couldn't keep an eye on you. Please don't be mad at me." I shook my head. What they had done for me was more than enough. Eleanor held my hand and asked about how I had been, repeatedly saying how much I must have suffered. Her emotional display made me a little awkward, but Sophie came to my rescue. "Okay, Mom. We'll have plenty of time to take care of her from now on." Amy turned to me. "Sis, the apartment won't be ready for a few days. Will you come home with us until then? Please don't say no. Please." Her pleading look melted my heart. I nodded. "Okay." Eleanor set me up in a beautiful guest room with the softest, most luxurious bedding I had ever felt. Sophie whispered to me later, "My mom was so afraid you might show up one day that she bought 2 of everything, just in case." Perhaps it was the comfortable room, or perhaps I was just utterly exhausted, but I fell asleep the second my head hit the pillow. When I woke up, my phone was flooded with friend requests and messages from Diane and Helen. You bitch, how dare you block your own mother? You think you're so tough now you don't need family? I should have strangled you at birth. And from Diane, Claire, no matter what, you shouldn't have blocked Mom. She's only thinking of you. You're being so immature. The last message was a threat from my mother. You're not coming back, you little bitch? Fine. I'm about to burn all that crap your short-lived father left you. The mention of my dad felt like a fist squeezing my heart. The man who always called me his precious Clara in my memories was someone I could never, ever forget. After hesitating, I accepted my mother's friend request. She didn't say anything, she just sent a video. In the video, my room at her house was completely trashed. Everything from my closet was thrown on the floor. The things I had hidden in the very back had been dragged out and scattered everywhere. The teddy bear my dad gave me for my first birthday was being cut to ribbons with a pair of scissors. In the background, I could hear my mother's triumphant, twisted voice. Claire, you better quit your job and get home right now. Otherwise, I'm burning all of this. This teddy bear is just your first warning. As she finished speaking, she tossed the mutilated teddy bear into a metal basin. A second later, flames engulfed it. My eyes instantly turned red. When my dad died, my mother threw out all the gifts he had ever given me. I had to sneak out late at night after they were asleep to retrieve them from the trash, hiding them in the back of my closet. Now the only keepsakes I had of my dad were being used to threaten me. I gritted my teeth. I had to go back just this once, but I was terrified of what had happened last time repeating itself. I hesitated, then messaged a friend, telling her to call the police if she didn't hear from me by the end of the night. As for Eleanor and Sophie, I didn't want to drag them into this ugly mess. On the way home, I thought carefully about my past life. From what I remembered, my parents were set up by their families. My mother never seemed to like me or my dad very much. My dad was a firefighter. He didn't make a lot of money, and I often heard my mother complaining. I must have had the worst luck in 8 lifetimes to marry a loser like you. Look at my friends. They all get to go on vacation. And you? My dad would always placate her gently, giving her his debit card so she could go on trips with her friends. He let her have her way with everything. They eventually divorced, but surprisingly, my mother fought for custody of me. With me by her side, she always had an excuse to demand alimony from my dad. My dad was afraid I wouldn't be well taken care of, so he'd send money even if it meant skipping meals himself. Then, my mother remarried and took me with her, and I couldn't see my dad for a long, long time. Later, because of an accident, I lost my dad for good. My memories came to an abrupt halt. I was home. My mother and Diane were standing at the entrance to our apartment complex, chatting with some of the old folks in the neighborhood. I'd have been better off raising a dog than raising Claire. My husband and I worked so hard to put her through college, and the second she gets a good job, she says she's never speaking to us again. I don't want to be angry, but they're both my daughters, and Claire, my own flesh and blood, isn't half as thoughtful as Diane. See this gold bracelet? Our Diane bought this for me. Seeing my mother and Diane standing together, you'd think they were the real mother and daughter. The clueless neighbors chimed in. Wow, Claire always seemed like such a good kid. How could she do something like that now that she's grown up? Another added, I always knew there was something cold about that girl. Her mom had it tough, remarrying and raising her all these years. You'd think she'd show some gratitude. I stood behind them, finding the whole scene utterly ridiculous. I barely knew these neighbors, but in a few sentences, they had painted me as a heartless monster. My mother got so into her performance that she started believing it herself, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My life is so hard, Diane hugged her. It's okay, Mom. I'll take care of you. I'll be your daughter. I couldn't help but sneer. You want to play dirty? Fine. I'll tear away that last shred of dignity you're clinging to. I walked up to them. Mom, are you done? Because if you are, it's my turn. My sudden appearance startled my mother so much, she almost fell off the stone bench she was sitting on. You ungrateful child! You still have the nerve to show your face, she shrieked, pointing a finger nearly into my eye. I slapped her hand away. Diane screamed, Claire, how dare you hit Mom? The crap you two are spewing is deafening, I said with a cold laugh. Mom, search your conscience. Did you ever actually raise me? After you got custody, have you ever stopped to count how much money you squeezed out of my dad? I said, my face impassive. You talk about the money you spent raising me? That was Dad's death benefit, wasn't it? You took half of the $80,000 payout. My dad paid for my upbringing a long time ago. Ever since I started high school, you made me work every summer, handing out flyers, making milk tea. I did it all, and you still took most of the money I earned. You little brat. What kind of nonsense are you spouting all day? My mom lunged at me, trying to cover my mouth. I dodged easily, letting her fall flat on her face. You know, on the way here, I did the math. In the 7 years from high school through college, you gave me a total of $1,500. My eyes felt dry, whether from grievance or rage. $1,500. I lived on $1,500 for 7 years. I turned to one of the women who had criticized me. Ma'am, you have a daughter too. You tell me, could your daughter survive on that? The woman, looking at my intense state, avoided my eyes and my question. I didn't care. I turned to the woman who had called me cold-hearted. Ma'am, you live in this building too, right? Let me ask you, do you know what that place is? I pointed to a small, louvered window on the side of our apartment. The woman was scared of me now. The bathroom, she stammered. I laughed, a bitter, self-deprecating sound. Yes, the bathroom. And I grew up in there. Our apartment had 3 bedrooms. But when Diane whined to my mom that she wanted a piano room, my mom eagerly agreed and moved me into the converted bathroom. That tiny 50-square-foot space contained my entire childhood and adolescence. When I hit my growth spurt in middle school and Diane had long stopped playing the piano, I tried asking my mom if I could move into the spare room. Just curl up when you sleep, what's the big deal? My mom had said. Stop being so dramatic. We have to save that room for Diane. Even when the ceiling leaked and the sound of the upstairs toilet flushing kept me up all night, she never let me move. My stepdad once suggested letting me move out, but my mom and Diane vehemently objected. The whole neighborhood said my mom was a great mother, treating her stepdaughter like her own flesh and blood. But no one knew that her actual daughter was living like a rat. My mom's face turned shades of red and white, her chest heaving with rage. I'm your mother. How dare you, you bitch, talk back to me. You should be grateful I even gave you life. Her voice was sharp and piercing. Even Diane, who had been standing next to her, took a step back. Without warning, she lunged forward to slap me. Don't you dare touch my daughter. Just as my mom's hand was about to connect with my face, a long, slender hand caught her wrist. Amy and Eleanor had rushed over, their faces etched with anxiety. Sweetheart, are you okay? The second I heard you'd left, I was so worried you'd come here, Eleanor said, carefully checking me for any injuries. Sophie shoved my mom's hand away. My sister is already living like this and you still want to hit her? Being a mother like you, I'd be scared of ghosts knocking on my door at night. My mom squinted, trying to recognize them. Well, look who it is. The woman Robert married and her little fox. So desperate you'd go for a second-hand man. What a shameless, worthless girl. Sophie crossed her arms. You're no different from my mom. Don't insult yourself. Eleanor was too well-mannered to stoop to her level, but she was furious. Ma'am, when I left, you promised you would take good care of Clara. How could you let her live like this? For some reason, when my mom heard Eleanor speak, a flicker of guilt crossed her face. But she still stuck her neck out. How I raise my daughter is none of your business. Get lost, or I'll make you regret it. Claire is nothing. Only trash like you would want her. Our Diane is about to start a job at the Apex Group. Claire should come back and serve Diane. Maybe Diane will throw her some scraps from the table. Sophie looked at my mom and Diane, her words firing like a machine gun. Calling you stupid is an understatement. My sister is an Ivy League grad interning at a major tech company. Her starting salary is more than your daughter will ever make in her life. Diane? She barely scraped by on her SATs, and you paid for her to get some fancy degree overseas. She's not worthy of washing my sister's feet, let alone getting a job at Apex. Did you even ask my mom if she'd be okay with that? My mom and Diane froze. Suddenly, Diane's phone rang. She answered it, and her face grew paler and paler. What? My interview was canceled? My mom and Diane whispered to each other for a moment. When my mom turned back to me, the arrogance was gone, but her tone was still harsh. I don't know what strings you pulled to ruin Diane's job, but you will get it back for her right now. If I were still that little girl, desperate for a shred of my mother's love, I might have actually considered it. But things were different now. I was no longer the dog begging for scraps, hoping my biased mother would finally love me. Eleanor and Sophie stood firmly in front of me, their expressions wary. Don't worry, sis, we've got your back. I didn't hesitate. Mom, my dad already paid my child support. I don't owe you anything. This is the last time I will ever call you that. With that, I turned and walked away, ignoring my mother's frantic screams as Eleanor and Sophie escorted me to their car. After that huge fight with my mom, I blocked both of them for good. My stepfather called me once. Claire, I'm begging you, leave Diane alone. No company will hire her now. I replied coldly. If she's not good enough, don't blame others for not wanting her. Diane was incompetent to begin with. The only reason she got an offer from Apex Group was because my mom paid her way in. Now that Eleanor and Sophie had put the word out, no one would dare hire her. It was only after that day that I learned Eleanor was the youngest daughter of the chairman of Apex Group. She had just been living abroad for years and rarely made public appearances. Clara still thinking about things? Eleanor knocked on my bedroom door, holding a large box. Can I come in? I nodded, and she entered. I had my security team go get your things, the ones your dad left for you. She handed me the box, her voice full of apology. But some things couldn't be saved. I looked inside. The teddy bear was cut to pieces, and the letters from my dad were torn into tiny shreds. It's okay, I choked out. Clara, there's something I've been debating whether to tell you for a long time, but I think you have a right to know. I looked at her and nodded. Eleanor, you can tell me. I can handle it. She sighed and pulled out a contract from behind her back. It was stamped with 2 bright red fingerprints. The agreement stated that Eleanor would give her share of the death benefit, $40,000, to my mother to hold in trust. In exchange, my mother had to raise me properly after Eleanor moved abroad. And when I turned 18, my mom was supposed to give me half of that $40,000. I was stunned. So the entire $80,000 from my dad's death benefit went into my mom's pocket. I never knew about any of this. Eleanor nodded. I thought at the time that a biological mother would be better than me, that she could take better care of you. I thought my presence would only make things harder for you. And with your dad gone, I was in so much pain myself. Hearing Eleanor's choked voice, I felt an indescribable ache in my chest, like someone was squeezing my heart. No wonder my mom and stepdad bought a house right after they got married. They were just ordinary working-class people, yet they could afford to send Diane to all sorts of expensive classes. I really tried, Eleanor continued, wiping her tears, her voice thick with guilt. I told myself to leave you alone, to move on with my life. But lately, I keep dreaming about you. You're in my dreams, telling me that you're in pain. I couldn't ignore it. I was so scared something would really happen to you, and I wouldn't be able to face your dad in the afterlife. I'm so sorry. It's my fault you've suffered so much. Love is often feeling like you owe someone. In my past life, I thought I was a burden to my mother. Now, Eleanor felt guilty for my misfortune. I stood up and gently hugged her. It's not your fault. Dad would never blame you. You did your best, and Sophie is so kind. I had asked Sophie once if she was afraid I would steal Eleanor's affection. But it's normal to like you. Mom and Dad always said you were an amazing role model. Besides, I've gotten way more love than you, so I don't mind sharing some to make you happy too, Sophie had said, linking her arm through mine and resting her head on my shoulder. I'm not like your stupid sister who only thinks about competing with other girls. I looked at Eleanor. Dad would be so happy to see the 3 of us like this. As for the $40,000 Eleanor left for me, I was determined to get it back. She gave birth to me but didn't raise me, took the money but abused me. Even if she was my mother, I would not let it slide. I had Eleanor hire the best legal team for me. They sent my mom a letter from my lawyer demanding she repay the $40,000 within a month. After receiving the letter, my mom went ballistic, calling me nonstop. I blocked every number. Finally, when I got to work one day, I saw her standing at the company entrance. She was holding a megaphone, her voice shrill. Claire is a heartless monster. She abandoned her own mother and is now trying to extort a fortune from me. I'm a divorced woman who raised her through a second marriage. Not only did she ruin my stepdaughter's career, but now she's trying to tear our— Don't just stand there. Get back to work, Miss Thompson said, patting my shoulder. Just handle your personal business and you'll be fine. After leaving her office, I thought for a moment and sent a message to Eleanor. Eleanor, thank you. She replied almost instantly. We're family, don't be silly. Come home early tonight, I made you some soup, you're too thin. I smiled and typed back, okay, thanks, Mama Eleanor. I still couldn't bring myself to just call her mom, but in my heart, the woman who had saved me in 2 lifetimes already felt like a true mother. What I didn't expect was for the video of my mom screaming at me to go viral online. The footage of my mom's tirade caught a lot of people's attention. Whoa, what's the history here? What could make a mother and daughter hate each other this much? Hard to say, but if the mom is this crazy, being her daughter must be hell. Plus, it sounds like the mom owes her daughter money, so she's probably not a great person. Amid the firestorm in the comments, my mom went live on social media, her eyes swollen like 2 giant walnuts from crying. I'm a divorced woman who remarried, bringing my daughter Claire with me. My new husband and I used the little money her father left to raise her, but now that she has her wings, she refuses to repay us. She even has the nerve to demand the money her father left her back. What's a woman like me supposed to do? This child is also incredibly jealous. She's been jealous of her talented, successful sister since they were kids. Now she's ganging up with others to ruin her sister's reputation. My poor girl cries at home every day. I feel like I've failed my husband and stepdaughter. My mom cried a river of tears as if she were the real victim. Diane, wearing a full face of makeup like an influencer, sat beside her, sobbing quietly. Mom, I don't blame you. And I don't blame my sister. I just want justice. I want my job back. Claire, I'm begging you. I'm on my knees. Please give us a way to live. They even dragged my stepdad into it. Claire, I raised you all these years. Even if I'm not your biological father, I was a father to you. Please stop upsetting your mother. I looked at the 3 of them in the video. My mom, my biological mother, targeted me at every turn. Diane, from whom I wanted nothing, constantly slandered me. My stepdad, who never did anything to me directly, his silence was his approval of everything my mom did. He stayed out of it when things got rough, but the second his own interests were at stake, he'd push my mom to throw me under the bus. Eleanor was so angry she started swearing. A family of scumbags. They're still trying to drag you down with them. I want them all in jail. Sophie stood by trying to calm her down. Sis, what do you want to do? Apex has the best legal team in the business. We've never lost a case. Eleanor looked at me worried. Clara, she's still your mother. If you can't bear to do it, I can take you abroad. I held Eleanor's hand, my voice firm. Sue them. They showed me no mercy, so I'll show them none. The story blew up incredibly fast. In less than a day, online sleuths had pieced everything together. My mom thought this was still the old days where whoever cried the loudest and played the victim won. She didn't realize that today's internet users have developed a sharp eye for spotting lies. Do they think we're stupid? The adopted daughter is wearing luxury brands and has the latest phone, while the biological daughter is dressed in clothes from Temu and uses an old phone. It's obvious who was mistreated. And honestly, a daughter wouldn't cut ties so decisively unless her mother had done something truly unbearable. The 3 people in this video are just so shameless. The emotional blackmail is off the charts. As the online backlash intensified and things veered far from what my mom expected, she deleted the video in her account. But it was too late. Many people had already saved it. Some of my old classmates even came forward to defend me, talking about how hard I had it in college, working 3 jobs while still earning scholarships. Eleanor was glued to her phone at home, one moment sadly murmuring about how much I'd suffered, the next excitedly saying she was going to buy social media boosts for everyone who testified for me. Sophie and I could only shake our heads at her antics. My mom had finished her performance. Now it was my turn. I didn't want to become an internet celebrity or expose my whole life to the public, so I chose to just post a few documents. A copy of the lawyer's letter demanding the $40,000 inheritance my dad left me, and a record of the living expenses my mother had given me over the years. A grand total of $5,000 in 10 years. Compared to what I had given her, $15,000 over the same period, it was a pittance. I also included the receipts for my tuition, which I had paid myself with money from part-time jobs. As I gathered the evidence, I found it all so ironic. To this day, I still couldn't understand why I had spent so many years timidly trying to be a good daughter when all my mom wanted was for me to die. But it didn't matter anymore. I wouldn't cry over someone who never loved me. The moment I posted the evidence, the three of them were plunged into a whirlpool of public condemnation. My brain just short-circuited. She used her ex-husband's huge death benefit to buy a house for her current husband and stepdaughter, while her own biological daughter lived like a dog. Diane's information was dug up too. This stepsister claims her sister was targeting her, but it turns out she went to some diploma mill and tried to buy her way into a big company. LMAO, any company that hired her would have to be blind. I watched the storm rage online, and I felt a sense of vindication. Things were spreading fast, but the legal team Eleanor had lent me was no joke. They were fueling the fire behind the scenes. The next time I saw my mom, her arms were pinned behind her back as she was forced to kneel in front of me. She looked nothing like her usual put-together self. Her face was haggard and worn. "It's all your fault, you bitch. If it wasn't for you, they never would have kicked me out," she screamed hysterically from the floor. I glanced at the knife a bodyguard had taken from her and found it laughable. "You were going to kill me?" After my mom's public meltdown, Eleanor had assigned several bodyguards to me. So when my mom rushed at me with a knife today, she didn't even get close before they tackled her to the ground. "It's you! You should be dead! I should have gotten rid of you when you were still in my womb. How could I have given birth to such an ungrateful monster?" I was slightly stunned. "But why? What did I ever do to you?" "You're just like your father. You both deserve to die. Marrying him was the biggest mistake of my life. He was just some poor loser. The sight of him made me sick." Her mind was unraveling. Why? Why did he get to marry some rich woman after we divorced? I wanted to make his life miserable. I wanted his daughter so I could torture her to death. I looked at my mom, horrified. My mom had a history with my stepdad long ago, but he had dumped her to marry a wealthy woman. My parents were set up by their families. I always knew my mom didn't like me or my dad, but I never imagined her hatred was this twisted. But my dad didn't owe you anything, and I don't owe you anything. You don't know a damn thing. I was supposed to marry a rich man. It was all your father's fault. My mom had completely lost it, but I didn't care. I took out my phone and showed her a video. It was of Diane and her biological mother. "Mom, don't worry. Once that stupid woman gets her daughter's money and buys us the house, I'll make Dad divorce her. Then the three of us can live happily ever after." I looked at my mom's shocked face. "Mom, is this everything you ever wanted? This is your good daughter." "Call the police," I said, looking at her broken expression without a shred of hesitation. This is what they deserve. My mom finally realized what was happening. For the first time, I saw terror on her face. "Clara, I'm your mother. You've always loved your mother. How could you do this to me?" She clutched at my pant leg, begging me, looking just like I had as a child when I'd grab her pants and tell her Diane was bullying me at school, begging her for help. What did she say back then? "You live off her dad's money. You deserve it, even if she beats you to death." I crouched down and pried her fingers off my pants, one by one. "Mom, this is what you deserve. Have you forgotten? You killed Clara with your own hands. I'm Claire now." My mom had a complete mental breakdown and was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Diane was sent to prison for bullying me and several other victims who came forward. The moment Diane's biological mother saw how things were turning out, she grabbed all the family's money and skipped town. My stepdad couldn't handle the shock and tried to jump off a building. He must have been lucky because he survived, but he was paralyzed. What did any of that have to do with me? I went with Eleanor and Sophie to visit my dad. For so many years, out of consideration for my mom, I had rarely visited him, only sneaking by occasionally. In the photograph, my dad's face was still young and full of life, just like when I was a little girl and he would lift me over his head saying, "Our Clara is going to be the happiest girl in the world. Even if other people don't love you, Daddy will always love you." Eleanor's voice was thick with emotion. "Robert, I protected our Clara. I can finally face you now." Sophie wrapped her arm around me, gently patting my trembling back. The wind blew softly. "Dad, was that you answering my thoughts?"